वासुदेव हरि ओम। शं नो मित्रस्यं वरुणः शं नो भवत्वर्यमा शं न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शं नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वामेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
वासुदेव
वासुदेव
Namaste-Gurubhyo Namaha Subhaya Namaha. So, I'm very new to this, so basically we are very fortunate to have Master E.A.K. who is Ikkirala Anantakrishna Garu. So I just wanted to speak a few words as an introduction about Master Garu, so that you will also know about what Master Garu is and what spiritual journey he has done till now. Very few words. So we are fortunate to have amongst us a master of great erudition, Sri Ikkirala Anantakrishna Garu, from Visakhapatnam, which is Vizag, Andhra Pradesh. Master E.A.K. as well, we call him with reverence, is a man of polygonal intellect. He is a master of Indology as an astrologer, exponent in Sanskrit, a trained Ayurvedic doctor who cured many patients, an accomplished homeopath, an expert healer with firm footing in Reiki, Tai Chi, and he is trained Veena Vidwan. A reflection of his epoch-making father, Master E.K., is also called as Ikkirala Krishnamacharya, who is one of the great scholar, philosopher, Ayurvedic doctor and homeopath who has trained thousands and thousands of people around India and as well as in Europe as well. E.A.K. followed his guru, who is Master E.K., footsteps. He is the founder, chairman of Master E.K. Spiritual and Service Mission with its international headquarters at Visakhapatnam. The service mission draws its goals from the life and teachings of Master E.K. The primary goals are service to mankind through charitable homeo clinics, propagation of the ageless Indian and arcane scriptures for world at large without any discrimination of race, religion, creed or sex, to enable yogic and group living as prescribed by Master CVV. The service mission runs numerous charitable dispensaries in India, which are homeopathy dispensaries, and abroad where thousands of patients are healed daily and which are completely free. And invitation by the Occidental Brotherhood, that's why we are here. In the Europe, Dr. Ekkirala Anantakrishna Garu tours there every year, thus working towards the integration of East and West. It's called Prak Paschima Samanvayam. So he's trying to bridge a relationship between East and West. After having had successfully conducted the European tour that spanned around 11 weeks, we have amongst us the Master who has consented to speak to us about the topic health and human life.
Krishnam Kamalapatraksham Punyasravanakirtanam Vasudevam Jagadyonim Naumi Narayanam Harim Krishnaya Vasudevaya Haraye Paramatmane Pranatakleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Paparogadigrastanam prajanam artinasikam Dhanvantari samam vaidyam Krishnam vande jagadgurum. Om Asmad Gurubhyo Namaha. Dear brothers and sisters and colleagues, I feel very grateful for this opportunity you have given to me to share my experiences in the field of healing and whatever are explained about me by Ashish Jairam, all those attributes belong to my Guru and Father, Master E.K. and I am one among the disciples of the Master. I am just trying to follow the footsteps of my Master in this work for the welfare of one and all. That is the main aspect of the work for which our Master has built up like a bridge between East and West. It was one of his main purposes in his life, which he started in a very simple manner and which now has expanded like a banyan tree. So in that work, almost every year I had been invited by our brotherhood of the Occidental countries from Belgium, France, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, and also Russia and Ukraine. In these countries, the people of those countries who are very much interested to enter into this service by learning mainly the science of homeopathy and Ayurveda, and also the science of yoga, and also the Indian scriptures, the ancient scriptures. So every year I've been trying to integrate with all the people who are working like this. So as a part of this program, this year we have entered into Europe on the 20th of September, starting from Belgium. Because in Belgium itself we have 4 homeopathic dispensaries which are working like in India. Those Belgian people who are very much dedicated, who has learned this. Because as to the topic of this evening, human life, what is most required thing is health. That is the primary thing, without which all the other things will be of no much value. Without having a good health in its true sense, all the other things cannot give us a real experience of happiness in our human life. And of course now in the modern times there are many technical developments in the field of medicine, technological developments and all these things, that is true. But still, humanity at large is suffering a lot from so many types of inconveniences, diseases, without having a solution for a permanent cure. Simply because the normal medical science is confined mostly to the physical form only and trying to find every cause on the physical plane. At this juncture, due to the good luck of humanity, I can say that about 250 years ago, Dr. Hahnemann, Samuel Hahnemann, was born in Germany, who was also in the beginning was a normal classical doctor. But since he, as we feel, was sent down to bring a new dimension in the medical field, to explain about to give a real explanation about health and disease and its cure. So that in that perspective he worked in the field single-handed in the beginning. Later stage he was followed by many other disciples also who joined the work, and thus he could bring a new dimension, and by making the people realize that health is not something which can be established only by using some medicinal substance, but it is something, a work on the higher plane to bring an order, once again, a proper order in the constitution. When we try to understand the human constitution, our existence is in different planes of consciousness. What we know is only about our physical body, which is physically perceptible. But when we go into the study of these sciences like science of homeopathy and science of Ayurveda and other holistic sciences of health, we can realize that our existence is not merely physical. The physical body is the outermost layer. Our existence is identified in these sciences in 5 layers of consciousness. And the physical body is explained as the resultant of so many forces which are at work. That is how it is explained. So whatever we find in the physical body is the result that is manifested by the activity of the vital force, which is the key point of our existence. So more knowledge about the vital force is important to understand our constitution and to understand about what is health and what is disease. Of course, now in the medical field, much undue importance is given to the study of disease rather than the study of health. So, much publicity is being given in all the countries about diseases and the various types of medicines to fight with the disease, but not a proper understanding of what is health is there. So, what is important as explained in these sciences is we have to know more about health. What is health? And then we can have a solution to keep our health without being disturbed from the normal state. So much importance is given in the science of homeopathy and science of Ayurveda, because Ayurveda is also one of the advanced sciences which is existing since times immemorial and which was existing in practice, which has a perfect defined science. So according to these sciences, health is the natural state, the original state of our existence. Because the nature has created us, the forces of nature that are working, due to that working of the forces, we are able to have this body and all this constitution. So, health is an attitude, a positive attitude and a harmonious experience. That is health. So, we can feel ourselves comfortable when we are in perfect harmony. So, what we call health is a perfect harmony or alignment between our 5 layers. What are these 5 layers? One is the physical body, which is made of the physical matter, which is called in the ancient sciences as Annamaya Sarira. That is the body of material body, that is Annamaya Sarira. That is what we see, we can perceive. But this by itself it cannot exist or it cannot work. It needs some energy or force, without which it is practically called a dead body. What is the difference between a living person and his dead body? Because all the structure and everything is the same, but the difference is the break of the circuit of the energy or the force which is working. That is what is called, to be understood, as death for the physical body. So it is this energy or the force which is called the vital plane, or it is called the vital body. And the structure and function of our physical body is completely based on the vital body. And whatever happens on the physical body is just exactly how it happens on the vital body. But the vital body is not perceptible as such, because it is made up of the lines of forces of energy. So, just like how you have a magnet of course is a piece of iron, for our perception. But what we call a magnet is having its own field around the magnet, which is not perceptible like that, but it is an arrangement of the lines of forces. Similarly, we have these lines of forces through which this energy flows through the channels. And this makes the physical body to exist and to work. So everything is governed by this vital body. And this force is called the vital force. That is the subtler plane. And then this vital force maintains and produces all the activities on our physical body. In physical body you have the various systems. That is what I already explained in the normal medical science, in the subject of anatomy and physiology. That is very well explained, but about the vital force, that is not yet properly understood. So this is what is explained in the science of homeopathy and science of Ayurveda. So then, what you call health is the state of harmonious functioning of vital force is to be understood as health. Where the vital force is working in its normal state without being distorted, that is experienced as health, and that is manifested as health on the physical body also. When the vital force is distorted, it takes a different form, because it is force. It is a particular pattern of lines of forces. So, if this pattern is disturbed, then it takes a different form than normal structure. So, this different structure, different form of the same force is experienced as disease. That is how it is explained in these sciences. So from this we can understand that what we call health and what we call disease are two different phases of the same force. Disease is also a force. So health and disease are not two different entities as it is understood normally in the normal understanding, normal medical science. So when you study homeopathic science and Ayurvedic science, you can realize that health and disease are not two different entities, but they are two different phases of the same force. Then we can understand where we have to work to restore health once again. Otherwise, what is happening is, when we only consider our physical body and its physical tissues, and if we think that disease exists in the physical body, in the physical tissues, then we are trying to fight with the disease by applying so many types of medicines in the physical form. So then what is happening? The result is disastrous. This is well known to us. Suppose you are suffering from some pain. So the pain is not physical, as though it appears to be physical by location. Even location is also, the pain is not located as such. For example, if you have headache, we feel that it is something located in the head. That is why you are put to so many types of investigations on the head. Suppose if you go to the hospital with repeated headache, then they can put you to all types of tests and even MRI, magnetic resonance, and then for the head, whole thing. And even if everything appears normal, but still the person suffers from headache. And when there is no solution, then you give only painkiller. And this gives only a very temporary relief, because that is not exactly the relief, but it is only disconnection for a temporary short time. So again you get the same pain, and again you have to use, and after using such things, you are directly attacking. You are thinking that you are attacking the disease, but you are attacking the tissues of the body. That is what is happening. Because there are hazardous medicines now which are used, like cortisones and steroids and all these things. When you cannot find a solution, then we are made to use all these things to bombard the tissues of the body. That's what is happening. You are thinking that you are attacking the disease, you are trying to destroy the disease, but these things are destroying not the disease, because disease is not exactly existing on the physical body. Therefore, all these things are destroying the physical tissues. That is what is happening. That is why it is getting more and more complicated in every case, because it is not properly understood where the disease is. So when you study these sciences, science of homeopathy and Ayurvedic, like these holistic sciences, you can realize that disease is never located in any part of the physical body. Then what is it that we are experiencing is only the result that is manifested on the physical body. But the location of the disease is in the form of a distortion of the functioning of the vital force. So how can we bring a solution, proper solution for this suffering? The proper solution is, it is called restoration. It is not attacking or fighting with the disease, but to restore the normal functioning of the vital force. So there is no use of using something to fight with the disease or fight with the symptoms, another thing. Because I will just try to explain you in a very few words what is the mechanism there in our defense mechanism. There is what is called a defense mechanism in our body, which is very well arranged by the forces of nature. You know, we have to remember that all the functions of our body, they are dependent upon they are arranged according to the various forces of nature. They are governed by the cosmic laws, which are unchangeable. Where from we are getting this energy? Because now so far we have known about 2 layers. What is the next higher layer beyond vital force is what we call mind. Mind is another finer layer which can be called a mental body. So the arrangement of these forces is directed from the mental body. So when we study these sciences, we will realize that the factors that may distort the functioning of vital force are located in the mental body, in the mind. Say for example, when you are very much agitated or anguished, then you can experience many times, you feel palpitation, you feel some disturbance, and you feel a change or a disturbance in the rhythm of your inhalation and exhalation, your respiration, because everything is very rhythmically arranged in us originally. Our heartbeat, the functioning of the lungs, and all the peristaltic activity of our muscles and nerves, this is arranged in a very great rhythmic manner. But when there is some distortion from the mental structure, which starts from the mind, and due to this distortion, there will be a distortion in the rhythm of the functioning of these activities of our vital force. And this distortion is carried on to the physical, up to the physical level. That is why when you are very angry, for example, suddenly if you are very angry, what happens? The heartbeat, the rate of the beat of your heart changes. You can test yourself. And the rate of your respiration is also changed from the normal rate. All these things you can test for yourself. Whenever you are angry, whenever you are depressed, whenever you are excited, on all these instances, because all this is starting from the mind. And this disrupts the functioning of the vital force, and therefore you have all these various types of distortions. So therefore, the starting of a distortion is not on the physical body, but it is on the level of mind. So, when the point of distortion is there on the level of mind, which is very higher, how can you cure or how can you restore this just by making any effort on the physical plane? That is what is happening. So this vital force, how it reacts, that is also very well explained in these sciences. Because our vital force maintains every activity in our constitution. So when some impact is there on the vital force, which is coming down from the mind level of mental level, then this impact makes an obstruction in the functioning of the vital force. And if this continues for a long time, this will obstruct all the vital activities of life activity. So the vital force always makes an effort immediately to regain normal functioning. That is according to the law of nature. We need not do specially something. There is this law in nature, and according to this, our vital force acts in such a manner that immediately it starts its effort to regain normal structure. In this effort of regaining, it produces certain symptoms. And these symptoms are like the indicators. They indicate what is happening in us. So these indicators are not to be considered as diseases. But unfortunately, when you have no idea about all these various layers of our consciousness, you don't know about the indicators, then you will consider all the indicators as diseases, various diseases. That is why at the present times, in the medical field, when you have different types of symptoms, each symptom is considered to be a different disease, and different medicines are applied to attack these indicators. If you attack the indicator, what happens? Just I'll give you an example. For example, you are driving your car on the motorway. On your car you have a panel before you with some indicators. Suppose the indicator of the fuel starts blinking. When it starts blinking, then you feel disturbed because you are driving the car. So you get angry upon the indicator and break the indicator, then it stops blinking. Then you feel comfortable because you are no more disturbed. But what happens if you destroy the indicator? The fuel is off and your car stops exactly in the middle of the motorway. So how can you work to make the indicator stop? What if the better action is immediately go into a fuel station, fill the fuel in the tank, then the indicator stops automatically. That is the right action. And breaking the indicator is a wrong action. And it brings you in a disastrous condition. That is same thing happening. It is just like that. If you have headache, if you use some painkiller, what is happening? It kills your body, not the pain. You are breaking the indicator. So you have to take this as an indicator, it's a symptom, it is not a disease. When a person has headache, that is one symptom. The same person having constipation, that is another symptom. The same person is suffering from palpitation, that is another symptom. These are all various symptoms, these are all various indicators, and these symptoms are produced not by disease, by your vital force during its secondary action. Because the vital force makes its own effort, its secondary action to regain normal state of health by expelling what is the disturbing factor on the higher planes. That is the activity of vital force. If you understand properly this functioning of the vital force, then you will never make any effort to destroy the indicators. You will always work in a wiser manner. So, only medicine cannot cure the disease. This is what recently, when I was asked to speak in World Health Organization in Geneva, in the Forum of Health, last time and this time also I was asked to speak. The same thing I told them, that medicine cannot cure the disease directly as such. Because if it is true that medicine can cure the disease, by this time the whole of humanity should have been completely free from disease. Everybody should be completely healthy. But it is on the contrary. You see how many types of medicines are existing now on the earth, in different systems, millions of medicines. The more new medicines are invented, the more new diseases are appearing now. All the time. We are very busy to invent new and new medicines to attack the disease. But that is not the way to deal. Unless you know perfectly about these inner layers of consciousness, you cannot bring any solution at all. So the science of homeopathy and science of Ayurveda, they mainly deal with these inner layers of consciousness, with the vital force and what is happening at the level of mind. And higher to mind, there is another finer layer, which is called the will, where you have the power of discrimination. So when at that level, there is any distortion, what happens is, the will and understanding are distorted. On that level, you have two poles at work. One is the transmitting pole and another is the receiving pole. What is the receiving pole? What is transmitting pole? The receiving pole is the form of understanding, power of understanding. And the transmitting pole is in the form of our will. So the will and understanding, if there is any distortion, then it will be resulted in wrong action. Because this distortion on that level will distort the thinking, the functioning of the thoughts that are produced from our mind. And when this is distorted, this is reflected into wrong action. And this wrong action leads to misfunctioning of our vital force. Just one or two examples I'll give you to make it easy to understand. Suppose I am hungry, so it is an indication from the vital force. Suppose I am thirsty, that is an indication from the vital force. So the proper way of dealing with is, when you are hungry, you have to take food. When you are thirsty, you have to take a proper drink. When you are feeling tired, your body requires some rest. That is also an indication. But all these are just not on the physical plane. They are indications from the vital force. So when you act properly, then your vital force is allowed to work normally. Suppose when you are not hungry, then you want to take food. It is a distortion. Because you are prompted because of the taste of the substance, and even when you are not hungry, you are prompted to take food. Then what happens? Your vital force is not ready to accept this. You will push the food inside. Even though you push the food, it is not acceptable by the vital force. You have to take food only when vital force is ready to receive it. And you have to take such substances which are acceptable by the vital force. These are all very clearly explained in these sciences. All the substances are classified into two types. One are foods and other are non-foods. Foods are those substances which are acceptable by the vital force without any resistance and which increase the strength, which replenish the functioning of the vital force. These are called foods. Other substances are non-foods, are technically called poisons. Those which are not accepted by the vital force, and by introducing these substances into the body, the vital force starts an activity to reject this and to expel this. In this process also, the vital force produces symptoms. So these substances are non-foods. And these non-foods can be utilized as medicinal substances, not directly in the physical form. That is another dimension. If medicine is applied in the physical form, just on the physical plane, that will create obstruction and disturbance in the functioning of vital force. Therefore, in the science of homeopathy and science of Ayurveda, the application of medicine is in the dynamic form. The substance is dynamized. What is dynamization? It is to transform the mass of the substance into the force, into the energy levels of the substance. Because the distortion or the cause of disturbance is on the level of energy and higher levels, the medicine is applied to be applied also should be on that level. Otherwise, if you apply the medicine on the lower level, when the disturbance is on the higher level, how can you reach and how can you restore it normally? That is not possible. So, these substances are put to dynamization. That is the process which is there in these two sciences, homeopathy and Ayurvedic sciences. And when they are dynamized, they can reach your energy level. And from there, they can work from the energy levels to restore the normal structure of the vital force and its functioning. That is another dimension. So the cause of disease, as normally understood, normally what we understand is disease is from the external causes. But in fact, disease is not from the external cause. The real diseases are there as internal causes, which makes the constitution susceptible to all the external influences. Our body is made susceptible to all the external influences due to these real causes which are existing very deep in the deeper layers of the constitution. That is how it is explained in the science of homeopathy and Ayurveda. So unless you try to eliminate these internal causes, you cannot cure any person from any disease. For example, a person is diabetic, which is very common now. So diabetes, what is called diabetes is understood as a disease, especially a separate disease. But what you call diabetes is not the disease, it is one condition. So what is this condition? For example, what you call diabetes is when you find in the investigation of the laboratory with the blood or urine, then you find higher level of sugar, then you are calling it diabetes. So why is this levels of sugar is rising? Then they say that because your body is not able to produce insulin, that is why your levels of sugar is going on in the blood. Then next question is, then why insulin is not produced? Because naturally it should produce by itself in the body. Why it is not able to produce? Then there is no answer. Yes, you give insulin from outside, but that is not a solution. If you have to take a medicine for the whole life, that itself is a proof that it is not a cure. If there is any disturbance, then you should use some substance for a certain short time, but not for the whole life. So now you see, when you go to the doctor, they prescribe a medicine and say you have to take this for the whole life. What is this? When there are so many diseases, so many medicines for the whole life, then you have no time to take food because you are taking more medicine than food. It is most illogical. Nature has provided us to take good food, but not all these substances. But unfortunately, we are made to carry so many medicines with us as a daily program, and they give a program at this hour you have to take this medicine like this for the whole life. So what is this? This means that it is not a cure. So what in this example, what is required is how to restore the production of insulin by itself. That cannot be done by medicine, merely on the physical plane. Then what you have to do? You must find out what is the cause that made the production of insulin stop inside. Why it is stopped? The cause is there internally on the higher plane. How it will be, for example, because this is not a class for me to give you the whole thing, but just only one or two examples to know how these sciences give you a solution. Suppose a person who is having certain type of mental activity that he always has uncertainty in his behavior and very much having much fear and anxiety, for example, and he is not sure of himself also, how he behaves. There are certain distortions which are symptoms on the mental plane. They are not common in everybody. Every person who has a disturbance has his own particular type of symptoms. Just for example, I give you an example. A person who has certain responsibility or certain work, so at his work always he is not sure of what he is doing. For example, he has done some work, some papers and some work. Again and again he has to make sure that he has completed it. That is why several times he tries to check. And suppose he has locked something in his almirah, before leaving many times he checks whether he has locked the almirah or not. There are some persons, after getting into the car, once again they feel that, oh, I might have not locked my door. So then they come back again, once again check this. So what is this? There is a distortion. It is not natural. And another example I give you, there are some persons who are woken up from sleep at around 3 o'clock in the early morning, and then their mind is loaded with so many thoughts, and especially what he has to do in his office. How can he do now? What can he do now? He is not in his office. It is the time for him to sleep and to have rest for the body. But it is a distortion. Very frequently he wakes up at the same time, not for meditation or not for some yoga practice, but to get into more anxiety at that time. So many thoughts rush into his mind, becomes anxious, which he cannot do anything, and gets tired. And when it is time to wake up, then he gets into sleep. And then he sleeps until it is time for him to go to the office. Then he has to rush to the office. And this becomes a routine for him. And when he goes to the office, when he has to start his work in the office, then his mind is drawn towards what is happening at home. You see, his common sense is also distorted, because when he is at office, he has to attend to the office work, not to think of what is happening at home. It is distortion. When he is at home, he thinks about his work in the office. It is completely an inversion. Why it is happening? This is the real disease, what is there on the higher plane, as mental level. When this is not understood as a disease, a distortion, when it is not cured or restored to normal functioning, after some years what happens, this becomes more intense, and this disrupts the vital force, the functioning of vital force. And this disturbance is established as a distortion in the functioning of his liver and pancreas and these parts of the body. And then he develops afterwards ulcers, duodenal ulcers and all these various things. And then only when he goes to the doctor, he makes all the investigation and says, now you have ulcers, and he wants to cut all these things. But it is not a solution, because the whole thing started on the higher plane. So where you have to work, you have to bring normal condition in the higher plane, then all these things will disappear, not automatically. If you go on cutting part of his intestines, a part of his intestines, remove the urine and remove the gallbladder, remove every part of the body. This is because they could not find a solution. They could not understand the distortion is on the higher plane. Then you may ask, as a homeopath or from homeopathy or Ayurveda, what you will do, how you will deal. Yes. Now, since we understood that this distortion is on the higher plane, now we identify a medicine which can produce such distortion when it is given to a healthy person. That is how the homeopathic remedies were proved and brought into existence. By applying these substances regularly in those who voluntarily came forward to prove these substances, so applied on their body, and then gradually they developed such distortion which was not there before on the mental level. So such medicine which has a similar distortion which can produce, when it is given in a dynamic form on the higher level, with higher dynamization, then this directly reaches the mental level. And this will restore the normal thinking, this restores the common sense in the person, this restores the use of the will and understanding properly. Then, when this is restored, then the stress on the vital force is removed. Then no more the vital force is distorted. Then the vital force functions normally. Then what happened on the physical body automatically, gradually disappears. This is the solution. This is an example of how we deal with the diseases. Similarly, you find a boy in a family who has developed a tendency to steal money from the house. This is another example. It is what is called kleptomania. If you go to the normal doctor and explain this, he said, oh, this is nothing, this is not a disease. If you make all the investigations of the boy, nothing will appear. Everything will be normal. So the doctor cannot say anything. But this is the starting of the disease. Suppose if the boy is stealing some money from the pocket of the father, if the father keeps some more money, then it will be also taken, it becomes a habit for the boy to steal. And then when this is habituated like this, then he starts stealing money from others' houses also. Because it is kleptomania. He steals the money and he escapes from the house for some days or some months and comes back. So this is a distortion in the behavior. So this is not understood as a disease, but this is the real disease. If this continues for some years, when he grows, this intensifies, then he becomes all false things. He tells everything false things. He can easily make lying. So if this person is not treated, after 15 years like that, then all this descends from that level into the mental distortion and then into the vital force, and then it is established as a destructive disease in the lungs or in the intestines or in the bones, anywhere in the body. Then it is investigated and they will decide that it is tuberculosis on the physical plane. But when it is in the form of a distortion on the higher plane, it is called tuberculosis in the higher plane. At that time you don't find any tuberculosis in any part of the body. But it takes such a time, 15 to 20 years before it is manifested on the physical body. So if you can identify this at that level, you can completely cure this person before it is manifested on the physical plane into tuberculosis. This is another example. So, disease exists not in the physical plane. That is the fundamental understanding in the science of homeopathy and the science of Ayurveda. Ayurveda gives much importance how to prevent from falling into a disease, how you can keep yourself healthy. That is explained in Ayurvedic texts. Treating, and that is a secondary thing. The primary importance is given to keep up how you can keep yourself in the original condition of health. For that, Ayurvedic science has given a scientific routine for the human beings. Every step in your daily life, at which time you have to wake up and what you have to do starting from the very beginning in the morning, and how you have to arrange your daily routine, what you have to avoid, what you have to follow. All these things are very clearly given. It is called Swastha Vrutta in Ayurveda. In all the main Ayurvedic texts, you find this Swastha Vrutta. Swastha means the one who is in his natural state of existence, of health. Vrutta means the procedure, which is to be followed to keep this condition. Swastha Vrutta. And Ayurvedic science says that you can live for 100 years. You have to aspire to live for 100 years, a total complete span, but in a very perfect condition. Otherwise, what is the use? If you are kept on a ventilator for 100 years, it is useless. So you should live very in a fit manner, and there is a good purpose why your span is given, why or higher forces, you may call God or you may call higher forces, whatever it may be, but there is a purpose. What is the purpose? To reach higher level of our evolution of our consciousness. That is the purpose of this. And that can be possible by a proper arrangement of our routine and proper behavior in personal and society. So there should be a balance. That is how it is explained in science of Ayurveda. So science of Ayurveda first gives importance to this aspect and how to honor the laws of nature. And then suppose you disobey these laws of nature, then you will get into disease. And then Ayurveda gives very simple solutions. First of all, once again by proper rearrangement, how to get out of the disease. Just one example I give you. Nowadays, most of the people are suffering from acidity and burning and acidity and all these problems and forming ulcers in the duodenum and intestines. How you can solve this? Because there are many medicines which are given for this. That makes it more complicated. Simple solution is given in Ayurveda, for example. It is too simple, that is why many people do not follow this. Because our human mind is habituated in such a manner that if something is very simple, we ignore it. We are habituated to make more complication. So what is this simple solution? Early in the morning, after you wash yourself, then you make a glass of fresh buttermilk. All of you know, because you are very much familiar with this. A fresh buttermilk, a glass of fresh buttermilk from natural yogurt, not the yogurt made from chemicals, from natural yogurt. And then just put 1 teaspoonful of the powder of coriander, dhania, and 1 teaspoonful of the powder of cumin, jeera powder. Mix it and drink it before you eat or drink any other thing. And after 1 hour, you can have your breakfast or something, whatever you are habituated. Just keep doing this minimum 40 days. Then you can find yourself completely relieved from the problem of acidity. You can be sure of this. Because I have given these simple procedures in all these European countries, because I have so many friends, European friends, every year who are working with me. Most of them, they have implemented, they confirmed that they are free from all these things now, without using a medicine. For everything, you should not have a tendency to use a medicine immediately. By regulating these things, you can do that. Another example, migraine. The migraine is also very much a big problem now for many people I know in all the countries. No country is an exception. Because I have so much of experience since my last 35 years. So, a very simple formula I can give you. 3 powders you can prepare at home. You need not purchase the powders from the shop. Just spend little time that you can prepare. One is the powder of cumin. You take cumin seeds, jeera, dane, and then you can make a little fry, not in oil, but just little, make a powder, keep it separately. And then similarly you make the powder of coriander, dhania, seeds of dhania, make a powder, keep it separately. And then take the pieces of ginger, dry ginger, sont, and make the powder of sont separately. So when you keep these three powders, then the next step is, in the evening, in the night, take your handful of rice and cook them. Handful of, not the white, completely white rice. It should be the whole rice, or at least medium rice. You just take a handful and cook them until it becomes soft, and then put some milk into it. And then when it is little warm, not much warm, then put little of buttermilk or yogurt into it and close it. Keep at the room temperature. Don't put it in fridge or don't put it in microwave. And then in the morning when you wake up, just at the time of on average, at the time of twilight, you take this and put each of these powders, 1 teaspoonful of each powder in this, and a pinch of rock salt, little pinch of rock salt, Saindhavalavan it is called, and mix it. And this you take it with empty stomach before you eat or drink anything. You do it for 40 days without any break. Then your migraine disappears. Most of the people, with the first cycle of 40 days itself, the migraine disappears. There are few people who have to repeat this another 40 days. It's completely gone, no need of medicine. I know many of my German friends and Swiss friends, they implemented this and they have thanked me very much because they have got rid of the migraine without any medicine. You see how many medicines you are applying for this, how much money you are spending for this, and bringing more problem because you are dumping so many medicines into your stomach to get rid of this. So there is no need of any medicine, just simple. These are the two examples which I wanted to put before you, how Ayurveda deals with the problems of health. So in homeopathic medicine is in a dynamic form. We select the remedy basing upon the totality of the symptoms. We have different symptoms and all these symptoms put together is called the totality of symptoms, which gives you the nature of the disturbance and the location of the disturbance, whether it is on the mental level or higher mental level or at the level of vital force, like that. Then you can select the remedy which can produce a similar effect, and that remedy should be given in a higher dynamization suitable to that level to reach. Then this will work on that level and restore the normal functioning of vital force. Then when once your vital force is restored to normal functioning, then automatically all these disturbances disappear. This we have to understand through homeopathic science. But when in most of the cases what is happening is, for a long time, for a longer period, when you are dumping so many medicines, and all these medicines are producing their own diseases in the body, and this gets complicated, and if it goes on for a longer time, then it is complicated, and then it takes longer time also for bringing a solution for this. And sometimes if if all these symptoms will disappear, then it is very difficult to cure. Because symptoms, as I told you in the beginning, they are the indicators. If you make all the indicators disappear, you don't know what to do. That is what is happening in most of the cases. And that will lead to surgery and all these things. In most of the cases which are put to surgery, 80% of these cases, there is no need for surgery if you properly understand the case and treat. For example, in present times, most of the women, they are suffering from certain types of cysts or fibromes which are formed in the uterus. And immediately they are put to surgery, eliminate the uterus, hysterectomy it is called. So wherever there is any problem, eliminate the organ, that is the solution. That is not a solution. That is a rude way of dealing with the things. Since they could not find any other solution to cure this, their other option is only to remove. And for this, they built up certain logic that to convince the woman that since there is no more use for you to have the uterus after a certain age, you better you get it removed, because otherwise you may get cancer in the uterus and all these things, which is all nonsensical things. If you are afraid of getting cancer in the head, then you remove the head. To prevent cancer in the head, you remove the head. That is a similar thing. To remove uterus or to remove gallbladder, to remove any organ, when you can't find a solution to remove it, that is very illogical. And another very funny thing is, they say that certain parts, certain organs, they have no use at all from the very beginning. For example, appendix. So they say in the very beginning, you better get it removed because sometimes it may get infected. So if you remove it, there will be no source of infection. That is very illogical. Do you mean who has produced this body, who has produced all these things is God or higher forces of nature? Do you think that those higher forces are foolish to produce some parts which are useless? So it is illogical thinking of the human mind. So therefore, the science of healing, the science of homeopathy, Ayurveda, science of healing, all this, they give you a proper understanding of our constitution and a proper solution also to restore the normal functioning and restore the health in its true sense. And what is needed is, everyone, we have to understand these things, basic things, and we have to cooperate with the forces of nature. That is the most important thing. For our convenience, if we don't cooperate, then the consequence is that we bring a distortion for our vital force. So this is what is to be understood. So this is in short about this evening's topic about human health and the science of health and this. So because it is a big subject, a science by itself, which is to be learnt in a regular manner, so only I have given just a glimpse of this, how these sciences, they give the solution. So I think I could put before you some little understanding of these sciences and what we are doing, what is being studied in all these countries now. Because humanity needs now, because we are very much facing a problem with the commercial aspect of the health. You see, health is something which cannot be purchased in the market. But unfortunately it is understood as such that we can purchase health. How can you purchase health? Health is not there in pills or in medicines or in anything which you can purchase directly. There are certain things which cannot be purchased. One is health and one is happiness. You cannot purchase happiness. If you want to be happy, you have to be happy only, otherwise you cannot be. Suppose you ask a question, how I can be happy? The answer is, be happy. It is very simple to be happy, but it is difficult to be simple. That is the problem. Because we are far from simplicity, therefore we complicate our lives. So we have to retreat to simplicity, then we find a solution. So all these practices are the practice of yoga and all this in its true sense. The science of yoga is also, the term yoga is also very popular in all the countries, but it is only limited to physical yoga only, to Hatha yoga. But what is yoga in its true sense is yogaha chittavritti nirodha. That is how it is explained by Patanjali. Yoga means the state of suspension of the behavior of mind. That is called yoga. Because our mind has certain behavior. So if you allow the mind to behave as it's by itself, then it brings all difficulties. So yoga is the state where the behavior of the mind is suspended. Then only your inner light is illuminated as it is without obstruction. Tataha drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. The perceiver can radiate his inner light without any obstruction. Otherwise we get identified with all the environment. That is how it is explained by Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras. And the same thing is also explained in another science text, that is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is not a religious book as it is understood. It is direct practical application. It is a science to apply in our daily life. You have solution for every problem. So like this, we have to understand these sciences, and then we can have a proper solution, and we can know the very purpose of our human life. This is what is being studied and practiced by so many aspirants and so many people in all these countries with whom I have been working. So here also I found an opportunity. Actually I did not expect that I can meet all of you. Actually this is an extension of my tour to visit my son-in-law, my daughter and son-in-law, because he has a new child, new baby, my granddaughter. And then he proposed that we have so many friends who also will be happy to meet. So that is how it is the will of God, will of higher forces, that we came together, and I had this opportunity to meet all of you, to express myself. Thank you.
We have an opportunity, we got an opportunity to meet you. Vasudeva. Thank you very much, Master, for the... Every time I listen, Master, so this I see a different pace. And I cannot really express this because I've been listening, Master, but this is a new dimension again I have seen. I think so that is the blissfulness and the gracefulness of the Masters, which they teach the science in the real science. Yeah, because they are the persons who practice, implement the things. So I just quickly wanted to ask Bhagavad Bandhus any small questions if you want to get clarified. Nibulutti, so you can ask Pulline. Yeah. So yeah, please go on, Swami. Go on, please.
Namo Namaha. My name is Vijay, and many people know me here. I just wanted to emphasize the four koshas that you mentioned, and the fifth kosh which you didn't mention, the Anandamaya kosh.
Yes.
Now, there are two things. One with the yoga pranamaya kosh, we can actually work on the pranamaya kosh directly through pranayama, part of the yoga, Patanjali's yoga, Ashtanga yoga system. So we can directly work on the pranamaya kosh, which is also very gives you a lot of health benefits. The last one is the Anandamaya kosh, which you didn't mention in much detail.
Yes.
And since we're in a temple, we should mention that the mantras that we use, they're all based on the Anandamaya kosh. And when the Sadguru, a true Guru, gives you initiation, he plants that seed of the mantra at the Anandamaya kosh. And through by nurturing that mantra through the procedure that the Guru has given you, that permeates throughout the other four koshas, the Vijnanamaya kosh, the Manomaya kosh, the Pranamaya kosh, and finally the Annamaya kosh. And that also ends up giving you a lot of health benefits. And there are many mantras that are specifically geared towards giving you a lot of health mantras. For example, the Mahamrittyunjaya mantra.
Yes.
Yeah? So that's all I just wanted to add. And if you can just maybe expand on any of those,
yes.
That would be very helpful.
The fifth kosha, or the fifth plane of consciousness, is Anandamaya, that's called the plane of experience, which is the essence with which all the other four planes are made up of. So the Anandamaya is the kosha, it is the essence. And all the other four layers are constituted by this Anandamaya kosha. And mantras are the sound potencies. The word mantra, mananat trayate iti mantraha. Manana means when you focus your mind towards the sound potency, then you get protected. That is why it is called mantra. And so we have many sorts of mantras which you find. And any mantra, the purpose is the same. You can take up any mantra. Then you may question why there are so many mantras. That is the next question, because I face so many questions like this. So why there can be only one mantra, why there are so many mantras? That is not like that. Because all these mantras are mainly potencies from the sound, because sound is the property of space. Sabda gunakam akasham. The space, the main property of space is sound. So through the sound, you can induce either a proper vibration or a distortion also by using the sound. But these mantras are those sounds by uttering which your consciousness is brought to a proper condition, and your mind, when it is focused on this, it gets dissolved into the energy of the mantra. And when mind gets dissolved, then you can get directly into the experience, because mind is the obstruction, mind is not dissolved. So dissolution of mind is what is required, that is what is also explained in the science of yoga. In the process of pranayama also, pranayama is one of the 8 steps of the practice of yoga. And in pranayama, you are drawn towards the double pulsation, that is inhalation and exhalation. At this inhalation and exhalation, an alternation of inhalation and exhalation, and when your mind is drawn towards this, that means in the process of pranayama, you have to first start observing your inhalation and exhalation, how it is going on, and then consciously try to harmonize them, these two, and follow this and then you can use some mantra also. And the very basic mantra is Om. Om is called the seed mantra, Bija Akshara, seed sound. So Om is the very fundamental seed sound for the whole creation itself. That is what is explained in the Upanishads and the Vedic texts. Omityekaksharam Brahma. Omiti Brahma Prasauti. So Om is that sound which makes our consciousness into a proper structure and get connected to the cosmic consciousness. And all the mantras are also, purpose is the same. For example, Mrityunjaya mantra, as he has explained, which is directly from the Vedic mantras, because most of the mantras are directly from the Vedic texts. Mrityunjaya mantra is like that, which is from Rudra Sukta, and then Ashtakshari mantra from Narayana Upanishad, it is there, and also Vishnu mantra. All these mantras, there are many mantras. So, all these mantras' purpose is that they are sound potencies, and our consciousness is brought in a proper manner to get connected with the cosmic consciousness. That is the purpose of mantra. So that is how we are protected from distortions, from disintegration, and they make us integrated properly towards this cosmic consciousness.
Like Maha Mantra, like Hare Krishna. When you say Hare Krishna,
Yes.
how are you connected to the, like you say, Om?
Yes. Because that is also, because the every name of the Lord is itself is a mantra. So, when you keep repeating this name of the Lord, then also you are connected. Because then you are dissolved, you get dissolved into that consciousness, into that potency, then you get connected to the Lord consciousness. And that Lord consciousness is the one which you call I am. Because I am, that is what many times in Bhagavad Gita the Lord says, Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhoktaja prabhurevacha. So, that I am is the one Lord consciousness. And this I am in everyone, and the I am which is common in all the beings, that is the one that is called Purusha, even in Purusha Sukta also. That is called by many names. So by any name, by Krishna, by Hare Krishna, or Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, or by any, when you keep chanting, then automatically you get tuned to this. And when you get tuned to this, then all sorts of disorder they bring to order. So that is a mantra by itself. So all these are mantras. Yeah.
Can I just add to the gentleman's comment about the Maha Mantra? The mantra comes from the Kalisantara Upanishad, and it's a conversation between Lord Brahma and Narada Muni. Yes. Narada Muni asked Lord Brahma, he says, now the Kali Yuga is here, now how can we offset all the bad influences of Kali Yuga? So Lord Brahma said to him, you just chant these 16 names and everything will be fine. So Narada asks Lord Brahma, he says, what are these 16 names? And he specifies this, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then, further, Narada asks Lord Brahma, says, what's your procedure for reciting this mantra? And the reason why he asked this is most mantras have a procedure which is usually revealed to you at initiation by the initiating guru. But in this particular case, Lord Brahma said to Narada, he said, there is no procedure, you just chant it. If you manage to chant it 35 million times, you even offset the bad influence of killing a Brahmin. Okay?
That way, yes.
No, this is a conversation between Lord Brahma and Narada Muni.
Master, yeah, let's make it confined to Master's answers. So, any other question?
Like Vedas.
Yes.
Gita,
Yes.
that is Saroti.
Yes.
And that's like Bhagavad Gita, it's not Gita, but you are living around it.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes, it is given for us to implement in our daily life, to live in that.
Karthik.
You said,
Go on.
you said you have centers across the Europe. So is there any center in Uganda?
Not so far, because my coming to UK itself, in the past I came to UK in 1993 and 95, and after that this is my third trip. So maybe center may be formed if it is according to the higher plan.
Swami, you told that any medicine will be given from the English medicine will be only acting on the body, and it is not dynamized to any other level on top of that. But now the example that you gave, like the buttermilk, we'll add cumin seed and the
That is not a medicine.
Right,
That is not a medicine. That is only from the food substance which can regulate a disorder, bring an order to the disorder. Because that is a disorder for which you get this acidity and burning and all these things. That is a very simple solution. That is not a medicine.
But that is still given to the body. How will it act on the mind or the...
Not on mind, because this is a distortion on the lower level. So it goes up to the vital force, because vital force is the main aspect in us. So this buttermilk with this cumin and coriander, this combination, this has impact on the vital force to revitalize, to come to normal condition. And so this first gives a solution on this level, and therefore meanwhile you can identify what is the source of distortion at the higher level. Then you can apply the medicine, but without using any medicine or painkillers and all these things, it is a better solution. It's natural substance.
But most Ayurvedic things which are given are all related to food items.
Yes, mostly.
And
there are also Ayurvedic medicines which are produced by dynamization. Because in Ayurveda also there is dynamization. For example, you have the rasa medicines, mercury medicines which are dynamized. It's called Suddhi. Suddhi means dynamization. There are also bhasmas in Ayurveda. That is also dynamization. So they are given specific conditions for specific cures. There are. But most of the things are from the food items, and when you can bring order you can bring it to order by using these combinations. That is what Ayurveda has given for us.
Any other questions, Swami? Anyone do you want? Swami? Any general questions or anything you are really just suffering, or so that you can just get a small, quick answer? Yes.
Eczema. My son is suffering with eczema. So what is the solution for that?
First of all, eczema or anything on the skin, as it is understood in these sciences, it itself is not a disease. It is a result of something, because when there is something which is there in the body, inside, and which is not to be continued and which is to be brought out. So the vital force is working in such a manner that it expels any such substances and brings on the surface of the body. So what we have to do is, eczema itself is not a disease. So we should not make any effort to suppress it from outside. But we have to find out from the symptoms, and if you find a remedy for the symptoms, then eczema also will be cured. Until that time, it continues on the skin. So according to homeopathic science, anything which is appearing on the skin is the result of the activity of our vital force to expel certain substance which is not required to stay inside the body. And all these substances, how they are formed, that is still very deeper in this science, because they are called on the higher level. There are some distortions which are called miasms, and the presence of the miasms causes a distortion in all these levels of consciousness, and this affects the vital force, the functioning of the vital force, and then this toxic condition is brought in the functioning of vital force. And so the vital force brings these toxic substances to physical matter. And when this is allowed to stay in the internal organs, then it will be deposited on the lungs or on the kidneys, and these are vital organs. Then there will be danger. So vital force very quickly brings this to the surface, that is on the skin. So that is what you see as eczema, scabies, or various warts and all these things. So you directly should not deal with them. You have to take the symptoms from which you select the remedy for internal plane, the vital plane and higher planes, then this will disappear.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
My eyesight was good.
Yeah.
And I never suffered before. I got the inflammation of the eyes starting from there. In my body, where the inflammation come from, where is the body, from which part of the body inflammation come from, what is the cause of that inflammation when there was no sign of anything in my body. The word inflammation, how this is formed.
Inflammation. Inflammation?
Inflammation of the eyes.
Inflammation of the eyes.
Yes.
For how many years since that is there?
It started in the beginning, about 12 years ago. Like inflammation of the chest is, that was called not something like that. But I'm talking inflammation of the eyes. The word inflammation, where it comes from? Where is it derived from? Inflammation from the body.
So it is
What's the inflammation?
The inflammation is one of the manifestations of a distortion of the kapha dosha in Ayurvedic science. It is dosha from the kapha dosha, and an imbalance in this kapha, one of these manifestations is inflammation. So if this inflammation happens in the muscles and nerves of the ophthalmic part, then you have this effect. So this is how we have to understand. So it is manifested once for all in this distortion.
So just to make you guys aware, so we are running out of time, so let's make it very fast, and we have to respect the temple timings as well. So yeah, very quick question, please.
In gallbladder, some people get stones.
Yes.
So they say how to dissolve stones. Sometimes it can dissolve, and sometimes they say if you now cut it out.
Yes, generally that is what is done when we have stones in the gallbladder. Then mostly they want to cut the gallbladder away, but that is not solution. It is possible to through homeopathic and Ayurvedic treatment. It is possible that the stones can be dissolved. There are many cases where the stones were completely dissolved and the gallbladder was free from stones. It is quite possible. So there is no need to cut it off. Yeah.
What are many cases? Could you recommend?
That individual case we have to study. It is not generalized.
What type of stone is it?
Yeah, individual case, and from all the symptoms we have to take. Yeah.
Yes.
Master. One observation I have been making with my family interaction with doctors is that they are being prescribed many vitamins. Say dizziness, okay, get vitamin 12, okay, pains, okay, get vitamin D, and so on and so forth. I mean, is this a way of just allopathic way of treatment, or can we have a more natural or a homeopathic remedies or alternatives in those sciences, which is much better?
Actually, in this aspect, what is explained in these sciences is that the vitamins are there, which are present also in our food substances, like our vegetables and all the substances. But why there is a deficiency of vitamin C is because our body is not able to assimilate and distribute these vitamins from those substances. So, we have to how we have to restore the capacity of the body to absorb and take these vitamins from the natural sources. That is much better and much healthier than to supply the vitamins directly from outside. Because when you supply from outside, then also the body is not restored to, the capacity to absorb is not restored. Only you are satisfied that you are taking vitamins as a substitute, but it is not a solution. So through the homeopathic and Ayurvedic treatment, the system of absorbing and assimilating the vitamins is restored, and that is a permanent solution.
So once again it's on a case by case study, or is it?
Yes, that's all. Yes. So we can conclude.
Yeah. Vasudeva. Thank you very much, Master, for your valuable time. And Master is traveling back to Brussels tomorrow, and he's flying back to Bharat
On next day.
Until next day. So,
thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Swami.
And we hope to meet you again.
Vasudeva.